Hey guys, it's Sam and welcome back to the BulbaSquad. So today we're going to be talking a little bit more about the bubble, except this time I want to talk in respect to modern graded singles and how I believe they're going to be one of the biggest detriments and possibly the killer of modern in the short term. So yes, this sounds very dramatic. Some of you are going to think I'm incompetent for this, but that's fine. We're going to have some fun speculating about this, alright? Essentially, the argument I would like to pose is we have a multitude of factors coming in very soon. Number one, Celebrations is coming, which, to be quite honest, everyone has been talking about Celebrations nonstop. Afterwards, yeah, we might have some more hype sets, but the hype isn't really going to be as big as Celebrations. I think we could all agree on that. Two, all of the stimulus efforts that have been happening for the past 2 years are finally coming to an end in a few days. When that happens, a ton of people are going to come off of life support and or off of all that extra money. And so that's going to either have to get pulled off of the Pokemon market, or suddenly bills are going to start catching up with them and we might see a liquidation there. So these are some factors I know that they're going on. I just don't want to dive too deeply into them simply because that would be a very big video. I really just want to focus on the PSA backlog and modern graded slabs. So, for those of you that do not know, PSA, as of right now, is not caught up. PSA, I believe, is in September or August for the value grading, meaning the lowest grade where the most cards will be sent en masse. The reason I know this, I have a submission with ZNG Emporium through Graded Gem, and I still don't have it. It's from that time frame. So no, that's what I'm using to base my assumption off of. Now, we all know that Modern didn't really move in price for a long time. Prior to Logan Paul, November, October, we had Sun and Moon tag team sets that were appreciating, but overall it was very slow, more organic growth in my opinion. Then Logan Paul enters the scene, Evolutions blows up, and all of the attention shifts to modern Pokemon. Vid Voltage blows up, Darkness Ablaze even started blowing up, Sword and Shield Base, Rebel Clash, everything blew up. And everyone got into a grading frenzy. Just perfect example, go look at those Twitch streamers that graded tens of thousands of dollars worth of cards and got back literal pennies on the dollar for their value. Now, why does this matter? When PSA eventually reaches November, I have a few theories. When PSA really fully catches up, we hit November, they magically catch up to where we are now, because PSA is ramping up their grading speed. I think last I heard it was like 20,000 cards a day. Maybe they're doing more, because they are definitely pushing through it. But once they really start to catch up, that's game. It's game over, essentially. Not to be too morbid, not saying Modern's going to die. Just we really need to look at it within the lens if we are going through a bubble cycle and we haven't completed it yet. Once we complete it, then we can really have much better conversations and make more educated plays, because we're still in a situation where, Evolving Skies, I don't know where I left the ETB. Evolving Skies still comes out and is way past prices, and courtesy of Cardinal Gaming, go check out his video on it, he showed that the cards dipped at release, and then uncharacteristically for modern sets, they bounced. So, Alternate Art Rayquaza VMAX was at $300, dipped to about $150, $130, rebounded up to $200. Very uncharacteristic for a brand new set. So we're still in a very wonky time, and I think we still have much more time to go before we correct all the way down, and we can really start making the best plays. Because it is during a time of stability, you have time to analyze the market, see, does this have value? Do I think this could appreciate long term? Versus, I think this might have value, but my god, Twice Baked Jake, Pokenomics, SM Pratt, Rudy from Alpha Investments, everyone might talk about the card and suddenly blow it up, and I've missed a chance. Maybe, randomly, people discover it on our Poke Investing, and then everyone pile drives into that card. Or, you see what I mean? That's why this matters and want to look at it like this. So, here's what I'm very confident of. You can disagree with me if you want, please. If you do, just tell me down below in the comments and provide a good explanation so I can follow your thought process. Whenever PSA catches up, if we are not already on the downward trend from the new normal to fear, capitulation, and eventually despair, it will kickstart it. Because let's make one thing perfectly clear. These boxes have a correlation to the intrinsic value. I do not care what PokeNav, what Alpha Investments have to say on this matter, because the thing is, historically the data has shown there is some level of correlation. Let me spitball some stuff at you, courtesy of ZNG Emporium. We look at base set unlimited. Box price $16,000, intrinsic value $7,800. That is roughly 45% of the box price. Jungle first edition. So, a couple months before he did the first one, I couldn't see the date on it. It was at $30,000 with an intrinsic value of $18,400. Box price $17,500, and then it dropped. The box price dropped from $30,000 to $17,500. Intrinsic value dropped from $18,400 to $14,000. That then changed the spread in between the box price and the intrinsic value from 68% to 80%, meaning the intrinsic value followed the box price. Box price went down, intrinsic value went down. Still don't believe me? Fossil first edition, $19,000 down to $16,000, $13,400 or $13,900 down to $10,700. Again, followed it down. We want to look at Neo Destiny first edition, $50K to $55K. Intrinsic value, $21.9K to $22.2K. Went up with it. There is clearly correlation. We do not know the exact percentage, but there is a correlation there. Percentage-wise, we can argue all day long. It's very difficult to tell. Now, let's use Cosmic Eclipse. For those of you who didn't see that spider system, go check it out. On Cosmic Eclipse, I estimated it has an intrinsic value around $734. I'm going to make it a flat $700 for easy math. $700, secondary market value, it is around $525 right now. What happens if Cosmic Eclipse is in that backlog, it comes back from PSA, and suddenly the supply doubles? Well, here's the thing. The demand isn't going to increase anymore. It genuinely isn't. We've already hit the peak in the pure popularity of the hobby. Just go look at Leonhardt's analytics. Go look at PokeRev's analytics. You can see their viewership has been trending down ever since the peak of Pokemon. That's how I track the general interest in the hobby, because Leonhardt, Twice Baked Shake, PokeRev, those are like the absolute gateways, the bottom level of where everyone enters, and if they start going down, it trickles upwards and everyone feels the lack of interest in the hobby, and that's just how it goes. We are probably not going to get more interest. You can argue lockdowns, you can argue more Black Swan events, but the thing is, if you are investing, if you are playing with money in this market, you should not bet on a Black Swan event. You hear me? Do not bet on something that barely happens once every 100 years. Yeah, it's still going on, but you shouldn't bet on it, because guess what? The odds aren't in your favor statistically, because it just shouldn't be happening all that often. It's why it's called a Black Swan. God, I had to address that one. So, back to what I was saying. If the intrinsic value plummets and is halved from $700 to $350, what do you think has to happen to the box price? Now, there's two scenarios. One, we now entered a upside down era, just completely insane, where the box prices and the intrinsic values deviate as much as they want at release. Or two, we follow the basic trend that has been established for the past years in Pokemon, and intrinsic value drops. Can you guess what the box price will do? Yeah, I can't tell you it'll drop by $263. I can't tell you that. But I could tell you it'll most likely drop if the intrinsic value drops on it. And now, with all this modern product out there with super inflated prices, because these intrinsic values are genuinely insane, when these PSA returns come back, what's going to be in them? We're not going to have PSA 10 WotC cards. We know it's a mixture of WotC Unlimited with some first edition and lower grades, and a ton, an absolute ridiculous amount of ultra modern cards. We know that for a fact. Just go look at the Hidden Fates pop reports, Champions Path pop reports. Go look at Vivid Voltage. Those sets are not even a year old. Not even a year old. And they have pop reports that are competing with WotC right now. So what do you think is going to happen when we hit November, when the most interest in the hobby ever in terms of modern grading comes, and all those cards start coming back? More than likely, most of these modern boxes are going to depreciate. The only question is on the Sun and Moon block. We do not know how the supply is going to play out on that, because the Sun and Moon block is an interesting thing. The raw supply of that entire block is lower than the demand right now. That much, I think, is almost undeniable and inarguable, because the hobby has grown way past where Sun and Moon was. And Sun and Moon, the way it worked is Sun and Moon base was way up here in terms of supply. It stayed up here for a few sets. And then because nothing was performing, from what I can tell, Pokemon decreased the supply in order to meet the demand. And that is what resulted in the tag team sets not having enough supply out there versus the Sun and Moon base counterpart. Knowing all this, that is why I'm very hesitant on Modern right now. Because I could purchase anything I want, but the fact of the matter is, like, Generations, yeah, there's going to be a fair bit of it, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere near what we could compare to Champion's Path or Vivid Voltage. There's going to be so much more of those cards in the backlog. And yeah, that's really all I've got to say on this. Overall, that is my general concern, and I want it to address this. I need people to understand this is the reason that backlog matters. And there's two scenarios when that backlog catches up, because it will catch up. One, we've already hit the fear situation due to other outside variables causing it, and then PSA catching up will just pile drive us into capitulation and despair. Or two, if we still haven't hit that, the PSA returns are gonna start fear and then send us down the situation. Like, that's in my opinion, I think that's what will occur. Just because I think Vintage has already corrected itself. It already went through its full stages and it settled. Because we can clearly tell the cards that are less rare took hit some prices versus Rarity managed to hold its own. Modern, on the other hand, is a whole nother beast, and it has its own cycle that it was going through, because Vintage started in roughly January of 2020, whereas Modern, you can argue it started with Hidden Fates and kind of kicked off throughout the year with all those tag team sets coming up and down. But I think it's inarguable to say that we didn't really hit our stride until November with Logan Paul. So, those are my thoughts for you guys today. What do you guys think? Do you think that I'm absolutely right and that the PSA backlog is going to send us down into the little spiral of pain and losses? Or do you think it's going to be the overall macroeconomic situation that is going to start it, and then PSA is just going to be an afterthought? Either way, if you guys think this will happen or it won't, just tell me down below. Just, again, provide good explanations down below so I can actually follow the mindset, because otherwise it's really difficult to have a conversation, and that's what I want. I want a conversation. So if you guys are interested in supporting the channel, Patreon $1, and thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.